Alright, so these two flagships are the latest and greatest from Samsung and Apple. Well, not technically, since it's the 15 Pro Max and the S23 Ultra, but seeing as I can't be bothered robbing a bank anytime soon, this is what we're doing today. We're going to be comparing the two to see which is the ultimate phone in the entire existence of the human race. Or rather, just the phone for you. Man, I really gotta take my hyperbole medication. Hey, what's good? Prash here with my take on the S23 Plus versus the iPhone 15 Pro. And to start us off, we're going to get straight into the design. Now, both of these phones take a different approach in their design language. Samsung opted for a more minimalistic style this time around, with the lenses floating in space, while the 15 Pro took a bolder route by refining the distinctive stovetop camera system and softening up the edges, essentially recycling their older designs and just making it feel more comfortable in the hand. Now, I'm gonna have to give it to the iPhone 15 Pro here, as to me, it's the prettier phone. I like the way the rings around the lenses catch the light and pop, and the camera system itself, while protruding from the phone, looks like it's melting into the body of the phone. A nice touch by Apple. The blue titanium color also looks miles better than the botanic green, which at most angles looks gray. I genuinely don't know what the people at Samsung were smoking when they decided on this color. I mean, surely the plants that they were smoking were greener than this. Alright, so performance-wise, both of these phones offer the latest specs. With the S23 Plus, you get the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 coupled with 8 gigs of RAM. All this leads to snappy performance from the get-go, whether you're playing games, navigating the UI, watching content, or just browsing the web. The 15 Pro brings Apple's latest A17 Pro chip. Great, they really love adding Pro to everything, don't they? This coupled with 8 gigs, like the S23 Plus, gives, again, a great performance with really any task you throw at it. I will add that the UI of the 15 Pro is a lot cleaner and feels a lot smoother than the One UI from Samsung. However, the customizability from Samsung is ultimately what wins me over in the general user experience department. I just found it easier to personalize my S23 Plus, which led to a better user experience overall. I mean, it took Apple ages just to get widgets. And even then, they acted like they revolutionized the game, adding a feature that has been around for over a decade on the Android side. Now, on the flip side, despite these iPhones being around for over a decade, you still can't free place app icons, which is just peak Apple stupidity. Alright, screen-wise, both offer 120Hz Full HD Plus panels that have great viewing angles, although I will have to give it to the S23 Plus. Samsung has been an industry leader with their AMOLED panels for a while now, and honestly continue to impress. Not that the 15 Pro is lacking, it offers a sharp screen with good contrast and deep blacks. I think with the S23 Plus offering that larger, beautiful panel, there's just more goodness to look at. Alright, so let's talk about cameras, and we're going to start off with the S23 Plus. With the S23 Plus, you get a triple camera setup with a 50 megapixel f1.8 wide primary sensor with optical image stabilization, a 10 megapixel f2.4 telephoto, and a 12 megapixel f2.2 ultra wide. You also get a single 12 megapixel f2.2 wide dual pixel selfie camera. Now moving over to the iPhone 15 Pro, you get a triple camera setup as well. For your primary, you get a 48 megapixel f1.8 wide sensor with sensor shifting optical image stabilization and a 12 megapixel f2.8 aperture telephoto with a 12 megapixel f2.2 aperture ultra wide lens. On top of this, you also get a 3D LiDAR scanner, which is great for AR and low light shots. You also get a 12 megapixel f1.9 wide selfie cam as well. Now both cameras produce great photos right out the box. Photos outdoor with plenty of light come out great on both phones, with plenty of detail and great exposure all around. Dynamic range is also decent here on both phones. There is a difference in computational photography, however, as the S23 Plus outputs a more saturated photo where the colors tend to pop more, while the 15 Pro tends to offer more muted photos that represent true-to-life colors. For me, I personally prefer the 23 Plus's photos as I like my colors to pop more. Close-up shots offer great detail on both phones as well.
Alright, so when it comes to low light photography, to my surprise, Samsung actually takes the cake here because they've actually updated their low light photography game with a recent software update, which prior to I would have actually given it to Apple on this one. So yeah, shout out to Samsung for their continuous innovation when it comes to software updates, especially when it comes to the camera.
Selfies on both phones with portrait mode enabled are decent as well. Now, both phones have great camera systems respectively, but I personally preferred the photos outputted from the S23 Plus. And on top of this, the autofocus of the S23 Plus is simply fantastic. I mean, it is just so quick. Now, I found that the 15 Pro really struggled with close-up shots, and that was mostly to do with the autofocus issues. Now, an example of this was when I had the 15 Pro and I took a photo of a bunch of flowers in a garden. However, when I tried to get closer and really focus in on just one flower, it really started to struggle and it just couldn't make that transition for whatever reason. It was only when I tapped on the screen a few times to manually adjust focus when I actually got the phone to focus properly on one subject and take a close-up shot. Now, I found this issue to persist when shooting video as well. So yeah, in this sense, it was really just hit and miss for me. Now, I'm hoping this is just a software issue that gets resolved with a future update. Alright, so when it comes to the battery life, it ain't even a competition. The S23 Plus wins by a landslide. Now, this phone could easily last me up to 2 days with moderate usage, and it was just great. I just never had to worry about the battery life on the S23 Plus. Now, the iPhone, well, that's a bit of a different story. And right off the bat, you can kill this phone in less than a day. Now, this is especially true when shooting 4K footage for long periods of time, as well as gaming and navigating. So I use a lot of Google Maps, and for some reason with iPhones, whenever I use Google Maps, they tend to run pretty hot and the battery life definitely takes a hit. Now, I found this not to be the case when using Apple Maps, but Apple Maps is trash when compared to Google Maps. So you can kind of see the issue I had here. Now, I'm not certain, but this does feel like Apple's being kind of sketch here and sort of trying to force their consumers to use Apple Maps instead of Google Maps. But yeah, now you know. Alright, so what's my final verdict? Well, usually at this stage, other reviewers would tell you that it's all based on your personal preference and what you value in a phone. But being as self-absorbed as I am, I'm gonna talk about what I would do if you handed me both of these devices. Now, as for me, I would personally pick up the 15 Pro, take my SIM out of it, and then chuck it out the window. And then I'd put that SIM in my S23 Plus and live a happy, carefree life. For me, it's as simple as that. I mean, the solid battery life, great all-round camera system, decent performance, and fantastic screen, just do it for me. Alright, so this has been my take on the S23 Plus versus the 15 Pro. I hope you all took something away from this video. Like, comment, and subscribe if you did. But for now, it looks like we're out of time, so I'll catch you in the next one.